Oh, we on your ass, Prester John. Oh, we on your ass, Prester John. Well, just 'cause you think they can hide you in timelines, Prester John, we ain't gonna find you, Priest John. Just 'cause they put you back in 750 BC, we ain't gonna find you in 1100 AD. You think you can hide in the timelines, Prester John? Have they been hiding Prester John in the timelines? Hidden in space and time. Oh, Prester John, we on your ass, man. Yo. Gotta love it. Drop nation, we patiently waiting. So let's see who got the drop on Prester John, man. Let's see who got the drop on Prester John. Parallel timelines in history. I'ma say it like this. I don't know where this Prester John investigation is leading us. This is part 6 of the investigation of Priest John. But wherever it goes, hang on tight. You surfing the wave. I hope everybody's still on their boards. And if you get washed up in the water of the wave, if a wave hits you and you didn't see it coming, and you find yourself washed up in the water, just remember, we told you to be water. So there's no fear getting washed up if you are. You don't need your board once you become the water. Oh, Prester John, have they been hiding you in parallel timelines in his story? Let's go, people. Buckle up.
Paleography to verify chronology. Although people use it then to make comparisons. We have an obvious circular argument here. What you need to always bear in mind is how things get dated, particularly in ancient times. I mean, in modern times, we know to some extent how things get dated. But imagine you're a historian, okay, from say 300 AD or 500 AD, possibly even 1200 AD or later. First of all, it's not entirely clear that your intention in writing history is the same as the intention of a modern historian, namely to give a faithful chronicle of events. We cannot take this for granted at all. As a matter of fact, it's a fair assumption that many ancient writings had a sort of moralistic purpose. They were much more in keeping with, like Roman histories was showing, the grandeur of certain figures and giving uplifting accounts and so forth. This is very, very important because the results that we're talking about are, in some cases, are going to look and seem so preposterous to you that you will be very tempted to just turn your mind off or turn your back to the whole thing. And what Ellen and I are above all trying to do is not make you throw out the data. You may discard Fomento's interpretation of the data. You may discard the interpretations that we have of the data, but you shouldn't throw out the data. In my opinion, the data is incontrovertible. You see on the right-hand side, this is the Roman Empire from 82 BC to the 3rd century AD. On the left-hand side, we have the Roman Empire from the 3rd century through the 6th century AD. And we are writing the Roman emperors in the order in which they occur according to the chronicles, according to the histories, even according to modern history. To read the diagram, the spaces, say, from here to here, represent the length of reign of that emperor. So, in other words, here's 41 years, a long reign. This diagram is supposed to show a kind of symmetry between a period of time in which you have a sequence of Roman rulers, and then a period of time more than 300 years later, in which you have another sequence of Roman emperors.
Pay attention.
Now, let's start here with Augustus. Okay, he reigns for 41 years, and Constantine the Great Augustus reigns for 31 years. And you say, well, big deal. I agree, that's 10 years difference. But follow what happens after here. You have Tiberius compared to Constantius II, 23 and 24. When we come to Caligula, it's 4 years and 2 years. Caligula is paired to Julian the Apostate. Then we have Claudius, 13 years, and Valentinian, 11 years, and so forth. Now, so you understand the principle behind the figure. It is meant to show the symmetry between lengths of reign of emperors who are understood to have reigned more than 300 years apart. Toward the end of this period in Roman history, we have a sequence of 4 emperors who all reigned for less than 1 year. Okay, they were died or they got off by the legions or whatever it was. And that's paired by a sequence of rulers who all reigned less than 1 year on the other side. Okay, very, very conspicuous. Now, the other thing that's interesting is this period sort of in Roman history ends with an invasion by the Goths, where you have Caracalla. Oddly enough, exactly on the other side, you have a second, let's put it this way, quote unquote, second invasion of the Goths. Okay, on the left we have the Roman Empire from the 1st century BC to the 3rd century AD. Then we have the Holy Roman Empire from the 10th century to the 13th century. In other words, on the left here we have largely the same people who are that we had on the right-hand side in the previous one, but now they're being compared to rulers of the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, basically about 1,050 years later, and you see
1,050 years later, so-called. People, we have to be willing to surf the wave, wherever it takes. Whatever it takes, wherever it takes us. So dig on this, man. Dig in it. Dig in it. This over here, let's get that back. Let's just get it back.
Let's put it this way. Quote,
pay attention, man.
Second invasion of the Goths. Okay, on the left we have the Roman Empire from the 1st century BC to the 3rd century AD. Then we have the Holy Roman Empire from the 10th century to the 13th century. In other words,
so this is from the 1st century to the 3rd century AD. 1st century BC to 3rd century AD. And then he's going to describe what this one is. But anyway, he's going to let you know that this is over 1,000 years later. Over 1,000 years later. And look how it all lines up. The history lines up. Over 1,000 years later. Come on.
On the left here, we have largely the same people who are that we had on the right-hand side in the previous one, but now they're being compared to rulers of the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, basically about 1,050 years later.
1,050 years later, and look how the history is going to line up now with the Roman Empire. Man, let's just get this part back again. I want you to feel me on this, because it's going to go right into Priest John. And have they been hiding him in the timeline? Does he represent a king of antiquity? Let's go.
Between lengths of reign of emperors who are understood to have reigned more than 300 years apart. Toward the end of this period in Roman history, we have a sequence of 4 emperors who all reigned for less than 1 year. Okay, they were died or they got off by the legions or whatever it was. And that's paired by a sequence of rulers who all reigned less than 1 year on the other side. Okay, very, very conspicuous. Now, the other thing that's interesting is this period sort of in Roman history ends with an invasion by the Goths, where you have Caracalla. Oddly enough, exactly on the other side, you have a second, let's put it this way, quote unquote, second invasion of the Goths. Okay, on the left we have the Roman Empire from the 1st century BC to the 3rd century AD. Then we have the Holy Roman Empire from the 10th century to the 13th century. In other words, on the left here we have largely the same people who are that we had on the right-hand side in the previous one, but now they're being compared to rulers of the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, basically about 1,050 years later.
1st century, 10th century. 2 different empires, same history, same rulership. Look how it matches up. Keep surfing the wave.
And you see that we have another symmetry. Okay, this is how it's reported. But remember, we have to bracket almost everything of this kind over here, because we don't know what the veracity of the chronicles is, what the intention of the chronicles was, or even what the people really understood by it.
I don't think anybody is in any position, really, to make a hypothesis. You get a million ideas occurring to you when you really look into this. Many people that I talk to, they want to get a hypothesis, they want to go off and run with it, to the exclusion of everything else before they understand anything about really what's going on. And I think that People have no business making hypotheses about this until they really understand the extent and the depth and the weight of what he has done. I mean, like any...
The extent and the weight of what has been done to you, my people. They invented these timelines. They changed times and laws, remember? Watch their conclusion. And we've been here before. Different people cooperating. The same Russian scientists with the chronology, breaking down the timelines and how they've been broken apart to make them seem like they're different periods, but these kings and these things are happening multiple times in history. And which timeline are we in? And have they created these timelines to hide modern history and push it back into antiquity? Our biblical stories, are they more modern than we think? Is King David more modern than we think? Let's go.
I mean, any like really nailed down hypothesis. You know, I mean, obviously lots of crazy ideas are going to occur to you, but, you know, because they occur to me all the time, you know, and I try to follow them out as much as I can. But, I mean, we are not making hypotheses here because really we're not in a position to.
Remember the little pattern up here, okay, where we have a little block of history here, and then we shift it back and so forth? Flamenco's opinion is the only legitimate history. Now, this doesn't mean that nothing happened before this. The only history that our documents address themselves to is from the period of 300 AD up to modern times.
Did you hear that? The only history that they can validate as actual events are after 300 AD. No BC, what they're calling AD. Negro, what timeline are you in? Where have they put you? Where have they put your kings? Where have they put your gold? Listen up.
We have a little block of history here, and then we shift it back and so forth. Flamenco's opinion is the only legitimate history. Now, this doesn't mean that nothing happened before this. The only history that our documents address themselves to is from the period of 300 AD up to modern times. Everything else is a projection of that material, that historical material, back in time due to the errors that scholars made in trying to synchronize relative blocks of history.
What? I can't make this shit up. They called your BC history a projection of more modern history after 300 AD. That all the documents that we've ever paid attention to, according to what they're saying, all our documents are all projections of things that happened after 300 AD. Whoa. One more time.
The period of 300 AD up to modern times. Everything else is a projection of that material, that historical material, back in time due to the errors that scholars made in trying to synchronize relative blocks of history. Remember, there are three shifts. One's 333 years, one is 1,053 years, and the other one is 1,778 years. He has an account of each one of these and how these could have happened historically to produce those shifts. But his is what we might call one radical interpretation. Now, before you say this guy's out of his mind, what Flamenco does, given one pair of duplicates, what Flamenco does is says, well, can we establish astronomically which one is valid? So, take, for example, Thucydides' Peloponnesian Wars. There are three eclipses mentioned in the Peloponnesian Wars, and they're described with great fullness. There's a lunar eclipse, an annular solar eclipse, and another lunar eclipse. You can infer what the path of totality was, and the whole deal from these descriptions. The creators of modern chronology, namely Scaliger and Batavius, tried to astronomically solve the problem of those eclipses. Were not able to do it without leaving out some of the data provided by Thucydides, who, by the way, says he was a witness of this. So what Flamenco did, he said, let's make no presuppositions about this. Where are the exact astronomical solutions for this triad of eclipses? And there turns out to be one in the 11th century AD and one in the 12th century AD, and no others. So what Flamenco does quite regularly is he will appeal to astronomical arguments to try to determine which is the principal one, and his conclusion, and however crazy it may sound, is extraordinarily well argued, is that the only legitimate history is the modern history from about 300 on, and most of that, by the way, is from 900 on. Appeal to astronomical arguments to try to determine which is the principal one, and his conclusion, and however crazy it may sound, is extraordinarily well argued, is that the only legitimate history is the modern history from about 300 on, and most of that, by the way, is from 900 on. However crazy it may sound, is extraordinarily well argued, is that the only legitimate history is the modern history from about 300 on, and most of that, by the way, is from 900 on.
So this is corroborating the Russian scientists that have put the chronology all back together again. They, you know what I'm saying, that's in the previous drop. You know, this is just revisiting that as we're getting into Prester John. It seems like we have to revisit everything. Because, man, just like some still think they're spinning on a ball, and how hard that was to kind of like stop spinning, plant your feet, be firm, fixed, and immovable. You still have to look at history and just blank it all out and reteach yourself everything. Everything you've learned has been a spell. Everything you learn has been through grammar school, spell, charm school. They've expanded your timeline just to disconnect you from your ancestors. If they push it back in history, you're more disconnected from it, yes or no? When it gets closer, you're like, whoa, you feel that energy right away. I know it sounds unbelievable, but Prester John is unbelievable. He's a myth, right? What part of the timeline does he exist on?
History from about 300 on, and most of that, by the way, is from 900 on.
After the 900s, man, can y'all hear me? Can y'all dig on this? Can you dig it? After 900, most of what you thought was BC happened after 900. So everything's in play. I mean, Solomon, David, all that happening after 900. Who is Priest John? Who is this priest king? You can dig me now. Hey, is he some Mongolian hijack? Or has he been hijacked? What is Khan? Khan just means Lord, and some languages prince. So it's a title of nobility. Khan, the great Khan. We have to relearn it all. Back down to the etymology. What did he say?
And his conclusion, and however crazy it may sound, is extraordinarily well argued, is that the only legitimate history is the modern history from about 300 on, and most of that, by the way, is from 900 on. From 300 on, we got like statuary documents and things like that.
He thinks most of the things that we think of as historical events really did happen, but the question is when and where, and maybe, of course, how many times. And he thinks stuff didn't happen 10 times, it only happened once, and most of that stuff happened after 900.
Yeah. By the way, and it's something that we need to find out more about. Flamenco applies his statistical.
But the question is when and where, and maybe, of course, how many times. And he thinks stuff didn't happen 10 times, it only happened once, and most of that stuff happened after 900.
After 900.
And it's something that we need to find out more about. Flamenco applies his statistical methods, not just to European history, but also to Middle Eastern history, including Egypt, India, and so forth, and it's riddled with repetitions of the same kind.
Would that not seem to indicate, that's almost the most fascinating part, I mean, either the whole thing is a fudge, or astronomically, astrologically, it's repeating itself. When you look at the pattern...
You have no idea how tempting that is. As Ellen mentioned, there was a tradition of studying history astrologically. It starts in the Arab world with with a whole series of people. The most definitive treatise was written by a man named Abu Mashar. He uses, for the astrologers in the office, in the room, he uses Jupiter-Saturn cycles, which have a tendency to occur in the same, what's called the same triplicity, in the same triplicity of signs for long periods of time, except they drift slightly, and every 240 years they change triplicity, and every 960 years they return to the same degree. Now, these methods were translated into Latin, but they were used by all medieval Latin chronologers. In other words, what are you going to do to write history if you don't have any documents? You use astrology.
Use astrology. Use the celestial to write your history. We have been hijacked, people. You know, y'all check that out, Parallel Times in History. Video Dave 2, Dave's second channel, Video Dave, something like that. So y'all check it out. That is an interesting piece of drop. I'm going to lead that right into this drop. Now, this was back in 2013. And hey, we're surfing the wave. We're going to get all the babies out the bathwater. We've been, you know, getting all into our indigenous truth here. And of course, you know what I'm saying, you got our brothers and folks and sisters that, you know, Africa, right? So we understand that Egypt is here. We understand what's in our Grand Canyon. We understand that these lands came out of the primordial waters before that land there. And that's what our research is showing. Everything didn't pop up after the flood at the same time. You had civilizations building on certain places, certain lands. And a lot of what they said is over there is over here. A lot of what they said happened back then happened more near. Again, a lot of what they said is over there is over here. And a lot of things they said happened back then happened more near. Come on, man. I can't make this shit up. But love to promise to be blessed. We're going to get the babies out. They're going to, you know, point everything out in Africa. Africa. And that's cool because I do believe that there is a duplicity of sorts. There are things happening there and here. Wherever we are is our Jerusalem. We set up shop. We set up our holy city, our place. So I believe that there's a place that rocks out there, a place that rocks over here. But I believe that here is where it all goes down. And some people might think it's all about Africa. But I think this is the old world. I know this is the old world at this point. And therefore, this is where it goes down. So let's check out mainly the timeline. Back from the timeline of what this chick just said. One more again.
Of the same kind.
Would that not seem
300 on, however crazy it may sound, is extraordinarily well argued. Is that the only legitimate history is the modern history from about 300 on, and most of that, by the way, is from 900 on. From 300 on, we got like statuary documents and
Listen up.
things like that.
He thinks most of the things that we think of as historical events really did happen, but the question is when and where, and maybe, of course, how many times. And he thinks stuff didn't happen 10 times, it only happened once, and most of that stuff happened after 900.
Yeah. By the way,
Most of that stuff happened after 900. So let's surf that wave right into this drop right here. Stay focused, dodge the hijack, and let's get the babies out. Oh. So boom. Alright, so they got this map in, you know, what we're calling today this Abyssinia. who's the king of Abyssinia. Found in camp this King David, 1520. So who is this King David? Is this like some offspring? Is this some joker calling himself King David? Clearly, Prester John, we have evidence pointing over here for Prester John. We got them looking in Ethiopia there and India there. So just because you seen King David over here doesn't mean he's not rocking over there, remember. King Solomon had all wisdom, right? Had all wisdom. You look up Nestor, he's called a Nestorian Christian. Nestor. Let's just get it right quick. Name for old king, renowned for wise counsel. Blessed, one who blesses. Okay. Old king, renowned for wise counsel. So let's get it. Let's ride the wave. King David, 1520. So in other maps, this would be Abyssinia or Tartaria or Barbaria. Some will call this whole of Libya. Iptos, these are all Greek names. Ethiopia is a Greek name. Right here you see Abyssinia. They're calling it Ethiopia. It's Abyssinia. King David found here. Again, Abyssinia. We got to keep going back, so we got it. Abyssinian. This is out the 1828 Webster Dictionary. Online edition, 1828. So we're trying to get, more of an efficient breakdown before they change a lot of our definitions. Abyssinian, adjective, a name denoting a mixed multitude or race. A name denoting a mixed multitude or a black race. All right. So, or a black race. So was it first denoting a mixed multitude? And if so, what is this mixed multitude? Is it a hijacked multitude? Is it a mixed multitude like the mixed multitude that was leaving out of the first Exodus? It was a mixed multitude. Those that were choosing up with the children rocked together. Or a black race. Then it became known as just a black race. Ethiopian just meant black. But before that, it was a mixed multitude. Again, put the same thing in the online etymology. Abyssinian, old name for Ethiopia, 1630s, from modern Latin Abyssinia, Arabic Habasa. The name for the region said to be Ame'ric, mixed, or Habash, mixture, in reference to the different races dwelling there. I'll be seeing you, slang pun, I'll be seeing you, Abyssinia. Right. So we got this Abyssinia in this map, Abyssinia. King David found here. King of Abyssinia, Prester John, Emperor of Abyssinia. All right, I'm just surfing the wave. Okay, so they're calling him King David II, his Emperor Majesty of Ethiopia or Abyssinia, Emperor of Ethiopia, emperor of Abyssinia, a descendant of Menelik. So he's from the Solomon dynasty. Is he the actual King David, Solomon's pops? Or is he a descendant of Solomon? Either way, we're speaking Israel. And they're hiding him in the name Christian because they want to attach King David with Christians. And King David ain't got nothing to do with Christianity. Oh no. But that's where they get the Ethiopia Coptic situation. But nah, that's with the son. No hijacks allowed. King David was not dealing with the son. He was dealing with the creator. Solomon had to get his magic. Everyone had their magic from the creator. What they did with it was up to them. King David, his imperial majesty of Abyssinia, a descendant of Menelik. This is 1520. Interesting, right? So if Prester John was 1200s, then perhaps he was King David, and this is a descendant of his son, who would then be Solomon, and then his line from Menelik with the situation with Queen Sheba. So that would put Prester John before this King David II. So could it be the actual King David? Let's go. Deal with it, man. This is going to be awesome. The 12th century King David, his forefather. Now that puts us in Prester John territory. Let's go. Alright, so this is supposed to be a letter from King David. Prester John, possibly. Hey, I don't know, man. Every drop about Prester John, I feel like I know even little, even less. Littler and littler, smaller and smaller, you know what I mean? It's such a magnificent thing, man. Magnificent thing that you feel like, you're going to know at the right time. But right now, we know very little. So let's just put it all on the table, Drop Nation. I don't know anything about Prester John. So together, we're going to piece this together. We're going to figure out this timeline. And we're going to figure out ourselves. And once we unlock this key, this door, we're going to know more about ourselves, don't you think? Who is Prester John? This is his letter. All right. Prester John to this day. Whoa. Y'all thought I was play? Hey, man. I don't do nothing for no reason, man. All right. Let's just bring it right here, man. The Europeans call him Prester John. So his name ain't Prester John. He's called Prester John by the European to this day. King David II. The existence of one of his forefathers, King David, is called Prester John to this day by the Europeans. King David, Prester John. King David, Prester John. King David, Prester John. King David, Prester John. You see his indigenous tense? Is this King David? Or is it a hijack? All this talk of crosses in Christianity, has it been put on the mythology? And is the foundational legend simply King David, hidden in the timeline? My native Negro brothers and sisters, what's up with these tents? We're going to get to it. Now here's where you get funny money. I mean, we have Jericho here as well, right? I'm sure if you look for Gilgal, you'll find a Gilgal here as well, right? So, this is when, you got to surf the wave. But, of course, it's going to be Africa, Africa, Africa. It's going to be Africa, Africa, Africa. And just, that was the main drop anyway I wanted to get from it. But definitely check out the rest of it. 12th century King of Kings found ruling in Assyria. But let's go. And just for kicks, man. Just for kicks. We're going back. We got a little bit of this before Columbus's Golden World. The high sea was most necessary for me, Columbus wrote in his journey for September 23rd, 1492. 17 days out at sea after a month-long stopover in the Canaries. By now the crew was becoming restless, and there was loud grumbling among them that they would never get back to Spain. They had encountered few winds blowing back eastward, and on this day the waters were so becalmed that the sailors claimed the sea simply was not high enough to bring them home again. But then the waves rose dramatically without even a wind, so that everyone was astonished and silenced for the time being. This is when Columbus made the entry just quoted, adding that nothing like this has ever been seen, save in the time when the Jews went out of Egypt and complained against Moses, who had brought them out of captivity. Oh, okay. So let's go here. We do not know much concerning Columbus's crew of about 90 men aboard the 3 ships, but at least one of them was an Israelite. Now, was he really an Israelite? Let's see. Whose presence as such was not merely accidental. This was Louis de Torres, a convert. He was a convert to Judaism, but he still spoke Hebrew, so he was valuable. Why was he valuable for Columbus? Why did he need anybody speaking Hebrew? Only people that would speak Hebrew are Hebrews. Is he looking for Hebrews? Is Columbus looking for Hebrews? Is Columbus looking for a Hebrew Negro? Is he looking for Negroes? Hebrew, Hebo, Negro, Nebo, Negas, Kings? Shout out to Hymar, man. You already know. Can you dig on that? He did a wonderful presentation, man. So real, so true. You know, it's just when it's real, it's real. When it's right, it's right. When it's real, it's real. When it's right, it's right. He did a couple parts. This is part 1. United Nations DOI, Negro Nations, documentary, genocide, family.
432 the drop.
Yeah, man. Those are my babies, man. Those are my babies. Dig on it. All right, family surnames. So dig on that, man. J Stu got the drop. Go here, click on it. You know what I mean? We need to get this rising again. We got to that 335 quick. People kind of fell back. So let's keep it going. All right? If it ain't for Jay, it's for whoever's next. It could be for you. So let's go, man. And love to the family. Love to J Stu. You already know. All right. Yeah, man. Higher Mark got the drop, man. We got some wilderness drop. If we got time, we'll come back to it. Love to the King, man. Automatic greatness, man. One of the first real ones I really started building with, man, and just waking up, man. So, love to the King. His drop's amazing. I mean, shit. Can we just get some of it right quick? Yeah. Dig on it. Still dreaming. Still dreaming. Still dreaming. Automatic greatness. Yeah.
Trying to keep us from still breathing. Snakes hating, we celebrating life with real meaning. In the streets, you either die starving or kill eating. So they pop pills to keep grounded. This hell got us surrounded. Get knocked off the square early. If you ain't well rounded, we still snoozing. With cops shop shooting. No time for marching, just smart moving. We're still losing. We don't need reality TV, just reality check. We focus on celebrities, we ain't even got a salary yet. Wasting time fighting over what rappers who best. Who got the most bands and flashiest dress. They only respect women for their ass and their chest. The more we sleep, the more backwards it get. The more backwards it get. How we awoke, still sleep, but speak intelligent shit, but still focus on irrelevant shit. How we awoke, speak intelligent shit, but still focus on irrelevant shit. Still dreaming, still dreaming. How we awoke, speak intelligent shit, but still focus on irrelevant shit. How we awoke, speak intelligent shit, but still focus on irrelevant shit.
But I tell you, how we gonna focus on irrelevant shit? Love to Automatic Greatness. Love to everybody sign up for the Drop Tuning Package. Just getting you 50 songs a month. Keep sending them. Don't make me have to hound you and remind you to send your songs. Keep getting that 432 library built up. Our goal is just that vibration awareness, getting everybody's music catalog in 432, getting you vibrating, man. And you can always get it for free by signing up for free right here and send your 5 songs in. We'll do our best to get those back to you ASAP. We love to the Frequency Anthem. Keep vibing. Everybody rocking the drop. We got a new shipment coming in a couple of days, so go get them while they're hot, man. And we got the No Hijacks Allowed shirts coming right after this shipment. We just got, we're just trying to stay up with y'all, man. Stay up with everybody. All right. So when Columbus say,
welcome to Swag.
He got a Hebrew
432 the drop.
interpreter. What is he talking about? What is he talking about? Why would Columbus need a Hebrew interpreter? Why would Columbus need a Hebrew interpreter? Among the earliest and most fascinating witnesses to the latter is a manuscript of 84 folios dated back between September 13, 1501 and March 23, 1502. You just saw the timeline. What they found is other King David II in 40, 30 or something like that, 20. And now preserved in the Biblioteca Colombina in Sevilla, Spain, it begins. This is the book. Let me get it bigger. This is the book. This is the beginning of the book, or collection of authoritates, authorities, sayings, opinions, and prophecies concerning the need to recover the holy city. Oh, is that why Columbus came to America? To recover the holy city? Is that why he needs a Hebrew interpreter? And Mount Zion? Is that why Columbus needs a Hebrew interpreter? To recover the holy city and Mount Zion? So what Negroes were over here? What dark people were over here fighting for it? And who is Prester John? And the discovery and conversion of the islands of Indies. Oh, they call Prester John the Emperor of the Three Indias. Is this an attack on the lineage of Prester John, of King David, and all peoples and nations for Ferdinand and Isabella, our Spanish rulers? This manuscript, commonly known as the El Libro de las Profecías, the Book of Prophecies, was compiled by Christopher Columbus himself. In the beginning of the book, and collection of authoritates, sayings, opinions, prophecies concerning the need to recover the holy city and Mount Zion, and discovery and conversion of the islands of Indies and of all peoples. They want to convert all peoples of all these islands. Who's the king of the Indies? Who's the king of India? Who's the king of the Three Indies? Who's the king of Abyssinia, emperor of... Who's the fucking man? Why does he have the drop? Is he a hijack, or is he being hijacked by history and these fucking timelines? I don't know yet. Every drop, I think I changed my mind, so, let's keep going. But this is why. This might be why. This might be why Columbus was said to have known, or his But this convert, this Louis Torres, a converted possibly only that year, he converted that year, who had once held a position with the governor of Menasseh. He was said to have known Hebrew, this translator, and Aramaic and Arabic, and had been brought along by Columbus specifically as an interpreter for his Hebrew. One of the purposes of the voyage, as we have seen, was to find the great Khan. Title of sovereign princes in Tartar counties. Lord, prince, ruler, sovereign. Title of sovereign princes in Tartar counties. Okay. Barbaria, Prester John, Johannes, John is Johannes. Priest Johannes of Abyssinia, Nubia. Ain't that where they say they found this King David II in 1520? So where was his forefather? If they found him over here in 1520, was his forefather over there? Remember Tartaria, which got hijacked by Magnus Cham. Genghis Khan hijacked Tartaria. title of sovereign prince in Tartar counties, Khan. So get the Mongolian out your head. It's just a title of the Tartar princes, lord, princes. One of the purposes of the voyage, as we have seen, was to find the great sovereign lord, the great prince, the great king. And Torres was to be the mouthpiece for this encounter. Again, we're reading out The Lost Tribes and Promised Lands by Ronald Sanders. Dig on it. So this Hebrew interpreter would be the mouthpiece for his meeting with the great Khan. So why would he need to speak Hebrew to talk to the great Khan, the great prince, the great sovereign of Tartaria, Lord, Prince, Tartaria? Ain't that where they found King David to say? Where did he come from? Look at Arsareth. They got this way over here, right? Oh man, shout out to Teach Me to Be Priestly, man. Just sent me an amazing presentation. Much love to the brother Peru Salem as well. Great researchers. Oh man, y'all gonna get just a full-on feature of this. I just been digging on it, man, researching it. You know what I'm saying? This is how we do. You know, we research this stuff, and it's amazing. So I will be presenting that next. They're gonna get into the Kokia mounds and the red cedar tree and stick in Louisiana and Baton Rouge, and man, it's amazing. Tremendous drop. So look forward to that. Let's go. So this Hebrew interpreter would be the mouthpiece for this encounter, presumably on the basis of his Hebrew, not his Aramaic, but his Hebrew. He needs to speak Hebrew to talk to the great Khan. Why? Who does he think this great Khan is? Perhaps Columbus and his supporters had decided that the great Khan, reported on by Marco Polo and others, might be the Israelite king who dwelt across the river from Prester John. So was he the Israelite king who dwelt across the river from Prester John? Or was this Israelite king Priest John? You see how that's flipped? Is it a separate entity, or are these two one and the same? So Columbus brought along, let's get it again. Alright, Columbus brought along this Hebrew interpreter to find the great Khan, or prince, or lord, or whatever you want to call it. It's a title. Sovereign, the great sovereign, alright? Presumably on the basis of his Hebrew, perhaps Columbus and his supporters had decided the great Khan, or the great sovereign, reported on by Marco Polo and others, might be the Israelite king. Is it a stretch to say, is this King David? Now that we understand that these timelines what? These timelines who?
$300, and most of that, by the way, is from $900. From $300 on, we got like statuary documents and things like that.
He thinks most of the things that we think of as historical events really did happen, but the question is when and where, and maybe, of course, how many times.
He said, let's make no presuppositions about this. Where are the exact astronomical solutions for this triad of eclipses? And there turns out to be one in the 11th century AD and one in the 12th century AD, and no others. So what Flamenco does quite regularly is he will appeal to astronomical arguments to try to determine which is the principal one, and his conclusion, and however crazy it may sound, is extraordinarily well argued, is that the only legitimate history is the modern history from about $300 on, and most of that, by the way, is from $900 on. From $300 on, we got like statuary documents and things like that.
He thinks most of the things that we think of as historical events really did happen, but the question is when and where, and maybe, of course, how many times. And he thinks, well, it didn't happen 10 times, it only happened once, and most of that stuff happened after 900.
Most of that stuff happened after the 900s. Most of that stuff happened after the 900s. This interpreter is here with Columbus, presumably on the basis of his Hebrew. Perhaps Columbus and his supporters had decided that the great Khan reported on by Marco Polo and others might be the Israelite king who dwelt across the river from Priest John. Let's get our, let's get vibing, man. Let's get it right. Israelite king, Prester John. Israelite king, Prester John. Is Prester John an Israelite king? Let's go down a little bit. Let's go into it. A little bit. A little bit. The most dramatic and of such demystifications, however, took place a few years later in 1520 when a Portuguese diplomatic mission arrived in Ethiopia, and the blurred and dreamlike vision of centuries hardened into focus at last. What the guests found was not the jewel-studded rim of Prester John of legend. So when you go back, you see that they're looking for the lost tribes of Israel, and they're just taking a trip to what they're calling the Orient. They're looking for the entire, northeastern circumference of the Indian Ocean. They're headed to India. They're trying to see where the drop is. They want to know what's going on. This Abraham Zacuto, these navigators. And the blur, so what the guests found was not the jewel-studded rim of Prester John of legend, but the thatched roofs and hewn rock. Thatched roof and hewn rock. Kingdom of Lebna Dingal. The mission's priest and chronicler Francisco Alvarez was no doubt thinking of the fabulous possessions of the former when he described the character of those made by the real-life monarch, whom he and the Portuguese continued to refer to as Prester John in spite of everything. It is unbelievable how many people always travel with the court, for certainly for a distance of 3 or 4 leagues from each place at which they break camp. The people are so numerous and so close together that they look like a procession of corpus domini in a great city. Are we talking about King David? Or are we discussing King David? Now they're going to try to hijack him into Christianity, but use your focus beams. Are we just talking King David and his great city? The 10th part of them may be well-dressed people, and 9 parts common people, both men and women, young people, poor, and some of them in skins, others in poor cloths, and all these common people carry with them their property, which all consists of pots for making wine and porringers for drinking. If they move short distances, these poor people carry with them their poor dwellings, made and thatched as they had them. And if they go further, they carry the wood, that is, some poles. Rich men bring very fine tents. I do not speak of the great lords and great gentlemen, because each of these moves a city or a good town of tents, and loads and people on mules, a matter without numbering or reckoning. This is just King David and his entourage. I do not know what to say of those on foot. We Portuguese often talked of these mules because in the winter the court does not move with less than 50,000 mules, and from that upwards they might reach 100,000. 100,000 mules are most impressive, but not in the way of the same number of cavalrymen, such as the legend of Prester John brought in his train. So this Prester John, or could he be King David, rode with at least 100,000 cavalrymen. It was this mission that finally learned there the whereabouts of Pero de Covihan, who had not been heard of from since parting from Rabbi Abraham or Muz nearly 30 years before. He was living in Ethiopia as a courier to the king. Okay, a kind of Marco Polo of the South, but with one important difference. He was not permitted to leave. He told his whole story to Alvarez, how in 1493 he traveled by land until he reached the Prester John, and he came to the court and gave his letters to, and he came to the court. So of course, he's talking about Prester John came to the court and gave his letters to King Alexander, who was then reigning, and he said that he received them with much pleasure and joy, and said that he would send him to his country with much honor. About this time he died, and his brother Nahum reigned, and also received him with much favor. And when he was when he asked leave to go, he would not give it. And Nahum died, and his son David, Dingo, reigned, who now reigns. And he says also, and he also asked him for leave, and he would not give it. So no one's allowing him to leave. All right. Saying that he had not come in his time. So he's saying that this King David or Prester John had not come in his time, and his predecessors had given him lands and lordships to rule and enjoy. So he's telling this line of King David has given him lands of lordship to rule. Is he going all the way back to Shem and how Shem gave Cush certain lands? Let's keep going. And that leave would not give him, and so he remained. Alvarez adds his own observation, saying that Covilhan was given a wife with very great riches and possessions. He had sons by her, and we saw them in our time. When he saw that we wanted to leave, a passionate desire to return to his country came upon him. He went to ask leave of the Prester John, and we went with him. And we urged it with great insistence and begged it of him, yet no order for it was ever given. So is Prester John being subjugated in this particular period? So far as it is known, Covilhan ended his days in Ethiopia. He too was a living symbol of the demystification of the East, ending like the legend of Prester John in Abyssinian dust. Now pay attention to this part right here. We're going to go into some other words. With that legend went for the time being. So with this legend of this Prester John, or could it be the foundational legend of King David, went for the time being all hope of a noble image of the Negro. Now it's big enough for you to read. You can pull it up. It's right here in the library. You can dig on the indigenous flute as you do it. You can dig on B.O.B. as you do it. You can dig on the sound of the wind going through the new autumn leaves. But whatever you do, whatsoever you do, it's got to be funky. I'm talking P-Funk, man. I'm talking G-Funk. See, when you're in that G frequency, man, you stick to the rules of the game. What's your rules? What's your game? Your game is returning. Your business is returning. What's the rules to it? Staying hijack free. Negro. Negus. Remember Negus. You know, Khan is Lord and all that. And what is Negus? Is it the same thing as Khan? Is Negus the same thing as Khan? Title of the ruler of Abyssinia from Ame'rican, Nugush, king. From the stem of Nagash that he forced, ruled. King. Negro, Negus, Negro, Negus, king. Negro. With that legend went for the time being all hope of the noble kingly image of the Negro, Negus, to counter the one that was coming with growing force out of West Africa. Huh? Whoa, let's get it again. With that legend, what legend? Priest John, went for the time being all hope of a noble image of the Negro. So your Priest John was your last noble image. Can you dig it? Who is Prester John? Is he a hijack? Has he been hijacked? I'm going to keep asking that question all the way into part 22. I don't mind making this a 22-part series, yo. Only if you like it. You know, if you like it, let me know. If you want me to keep going, I will. If not, I'm going to read this by myself, and I'm going to find out who Prester John is. And I'm going to shine on y'all. Don't make me stun on y'all, you know. I want to do this with y'all. I don't want to stun on nobody. We all got to get there together, man. We all got to get there together, man. Again, love to J. Stu. You know what I mean? And we all got to get there together. With that, legend went for the time being all hope of a noble image of the Negro to counter the one that was coming with growing force out of West Africa. What do they link you to now in your DNA test? West Africa. Africa. So this scholar is saying that there was an image coming that was countering your noble image here. And when that little search at this time, for the time being, all hope of a noble image of the Negro had went. You don't have a noble image. When's your last noble image of rulership, Negro? You got to go all the way to Haile Selassie and try to figure this out. Yeah, well, we're going to get into the Selassie. We're going to get into what's going on. We're going to get into the Queen of Sheba. We're going to get into Abyssinia. We're going to understand what's going on. But you got to know, man, before this West African growing force was coming your way, you had a noble image, Negro. Negus, king. What's your noble image? And why was it lost with the legend of Priest John? What kingship was lost? Was it King David? Was that your noble image? Was King Solomon your noble image? I mean, where are we at? I'm going to go right quick to this link. You'll have it up. You can click on it, blackpath.org. Shout out to all the family, man, Drop Nation. I know it's a little small. I can't make it bigger. But let's just rock with it. The legend of Prester John, a wealthy Christian king. Here we go again. Christian. Remember, just know when they say Christian, when they say Christian, are they just referring to, well, we'll get there. I don't want to jump ahead of myself. But you see, we're not playing. I got the Quest for Prester John up, Andrew Blake Denton, Athens State University. We're going to get into that. Love to Drop Nation for all this drop, man. We got the book. This book is called The Way, the prophetic messianic voice to the path of the Edenic kingdom. We got that up to give us some understanding. We got, of course, Lost Tribes and Promised Land. We got this great link called the Miriam HaKadosha, where I'll just give it away, some of it. We'll get some of this later. Prester John was Rajad Hiraja Chola II, Prince Jardaran, Bagroon Tuni. Who's a Bagroon Tuni? Who's the Tunis, Loonies, and Tunis? Who are these Brogan Tunis? Bagran Tunis. You see? What are we saying? A passage from the 13th. Who's this David Saslan? A member of the royal house of Alania. An Orthodox Christian? He's an Orthodox Christian, okay? King of the North Caucasus. And frequent intermarried with Bracantoni dynasty. This is what we're going to get into. He's considered Slosin to be a descendant of George I of Georgia. It's going to go all the way back down. It passes from the 13th century. Anonymous Georgian histories and eulogies of sovereigns relates that David was under the patronage of Tamar's paternal aunt Rusadan and came of the descendants, literally sons of Ephraim, which are Osi. So this David, it said, was under the with the patronage of Tamar's paternal aunt. So he was kind of going under the matriarch or his aunt's lineage. This Sauslin. We're going to get into all this. This is circa 1189. Who's this David? King of the Osi. The descendant of Ephraim, which are Osi. Handsome and strong in battle, the Georgian scholar Corneli Kekalids suggests that David Slosin's family, the Ephraimites, might have claimed descent from biblical Ephraim and compared his family legend to that of the Bagratids, who considered themselves descendants of David, the second king of the Israelites. So, when we are talking about this David Slosin, we're talking about a relationship to Israel itself and David himself. And they're playing with our chronology. So are we really just talking about King David? Do you see how it all connects? This is a cool little site. This Geni, GENI.com. Somebody they call Atan Bagratuni. Where do we get the Bracantunis? Lots of drop, y'all. Lots of drop. What's this? Bagrantioni. So what are we saying? When we say these Bracantionis are what? Ephraimites or descendants of David? Either one. We're only talking about Israelites. Prester John was Raja Hira Chola II. We're going to get into this. Remember this image. Priest John, King David, Emperor of the Three Indies. Prester Johns. So we're talking about a title. There's multiple Prester Johns. Just like there's multiple King Davids. Emperors of the Three Indias. Prester. Priest. He's a priest. Priest John was Ranjan Hiraja. Chola II, Priest Jaradan Bagratuni, the first Christian emperor of the Three Indies. Watch for the hijack. They're going to keep hijacking him. Was he a Christian? We'll get to it, man. I don't want to tease y'all too much, but I want to show you where we're going to go in part 7. How we're going to keep building with this India, King of the Indies. They also call him King of India. So this Atan Brugantuni, Bagrantuni, Atan Bagruntuni, Prince of Osi. Right here it says Osi, kings of the Osi. This Jeradon is said to be Slaughton's father. Descendants of Ephraim, which are Osi, handsome and strong in battle, might have been the biblical Ephraim. And compare this to the family legend of the Bagratides. So the Ephraimites and the Bagratides are considered themselves descendants of David. So is Prester John, King David? Is he representative of Ephraim? Either way, we're only talking about Israelites and titles. So this Atan Bagrantuni, Prince of Osi and Ephraim, son. So he's the son of Prince David of Georgia. We just got Prince David of Georgia right here. David Soslan. Georgian, was a prince from Alynia and second husband of Queen Tamar. Now Queen Tamar seems to have all the drop, because this particular prince or king right here, or this David right here, is the, okay, here we go, relates that David was under the patronage of Tamar's paternal aunt, Rasudan, daughter of Demetrius I. Here we go with this Saint Demetrius that was a martyr. So she's the daughter of Demetrius, and he's under the patronage of the lines of King Demetrius I of Georgia, of the Bagrantini dynasty, king of Georgia from 1125 to 1156, also known as the poet. Wow, man. He's regarded as a saint. Again, this is Saint Dimitri of, they're calling the Orthodox Christian Church. And this is Hijack 101. And you can get more into King Demetrius. I think Let Us Find the Truth dropped some great information on King Demetrius as well. But now we're getting into what they're calling Orthodox. And then you're going to go right into Hijack 101. But before we go into Hijack 101, is this all a hijack? Is this all a label? Or are they Orthodox Christians? But when they're showing their genealogy and they're showing their connections, you know what I'm saying, to the, Israelites. Let's go back. Israelites, descendants of David, descendants of biblical Ephraim. We're actually talking about biblical genealogies. Let's get back here. The origin of the legend of Prester John is traced to Bishop Otto of Freising in the 12th century. We're only talking the 1100s still. Remember, one more time, we're only talking the 1100s. And everything that happened at, before 900s could have happened after 900s. According to that bishop, Prester John descended from one of the three magi, wise men. One of the three wise men mentioned in the nativity story of the Bible. So they're saying he's one of the three cats that visited this Jesus, right? So that's how they're hijacking him. Oh, he's just one of the three wise men. Oh, what wise men? The ones that visited Jesus? Or was he a descendant of one of the three Nestorians? named for old king renowned for wise counsel. Wise men, the three wise men, magi, that's where they get magic from. These wise men have magic, have vibration. They're wise in vibration. Magi circa 1200s. Why do we stick with these 1200s? Everything we look for is going back to these 1200s, 1100s. Skilled magicians, astrologers. So these are people that understood the signs. The signs. Then it came magic, magician in Greek and all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? But these are just people that knew the signs. That's where they got the magic from. They knew the signs. They weren't talking about nothing spooky. They just knew the signs. So, you know, Prester John descended from one of the three magi who knew the signs mentioned in the Nativity story in the Bible. All right. The emergence of the legend coincided with the first crusades of European armies into the Near East. All right. The legend then seems to indicate a hope for a powerful kingdom that could serve as an ally in the European campaign to recapture Jerusalem. So were they trying to recapture Jerusalem in the Middle East? Or was there a different European campaign happening over here to recapture Jerusalem? I said, was there a different campaign happening over here in America by Columbus to recapture Jerusalem? This is the beginning or book or collections, authoritates, sayings, opinions, and prophecies concerning the need to recover the holy city. This is in the Biblioteca de Colombina in Seville, 1501, compiled by Christopher Columbus himself, concerning the need to recover the holy city and Mount Zion. Why would Columbus be interested in discovering the holy city and Mount Zion at the same time he's interested in discovering America? Do you have to really put this together? And discovery and conversion of the islands of the Indies. Prester John, Emperor of the Three Indias. Do you need any help putting this together? Oh, we all do. We all need to put this together. Put it together. Put it together. All right. Alright, so this legend seems to indicate a hope for a powerful kingdom that could serve as an ally. So these people needed allies against their Saracens, their Moors, and they wanted to capture Jerusalem here. The prospect of a Christian king seemed realistic enough that in the 12th century, Pope Alexander III sent a message by envoy to the fabled king. So we're going back to the 12th century. All right. And whatever they're capturing over there, they could be trying to capture Jerusalem there, and then they capture Jerusalem here. They got to capture both of them. The two Zions, remember? The two Zions, do you remember? Where's my two Zions, yo? Because y'all think it's all play. I mean, this is a lot of drop coming all together right now, and I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too. Love to everybody that got the Drop and Drop Nation. The Yadavas were the most. We're talking about India now. I told you, India plays. King of the Three Indias. India's back in play. The Hindu situation and what they've, all the presence here, all that's in play because we're deciphering it all. The Yadavas were the most venerable immigrants from India. They were the blameless and pious Ethiopians. Oh, so the immigrants from Ethiopia were the Ethiopians, Abyssinians, according to Homer, and caused the remotest of mankind. Part of them say that the old Hindu writers remained in this country, and hence we read of two Ethiopian nations, two Abyssinians, two Ethiopias, the Western and the Oriental. west and east, west and east. Ethiopia's in the west, Ethiopia in the east. How far west? How far east? Is it far west and far east? Let's see. Some of them lived far to the east, and they were the Yadavas who stayed in India, while others resided far to the west. Negro. The fact of art of the tribe yet remained in existence is one of the pieces of circumstantial evidence which I consider invaluable. Listen up. It cannot be the produce of forgery. So this art, the pieces of circumstantial evidence which I consider invaluable, cannot be the produce of forgery, and couples very well with the two Zions and the two Merus, Mount Meru, and couples very well with the two Zions, two Jerusalems. You think this is play? Okay. The legend then seems to indicate a hope for a powerful kingdom that can serve as an ally in the European campaign to recapture Jerusalem, two Zions. They did it there, and they did it here. The prospect of a king, Christian king, watch out for the hijack, seems realistic enough that in the 12th century, Pope Alexander III sent a message by envoy to the fabled king. So we have this cross, situation happening between Pope Alexander and King David, or Priest John, the fabled king, the messenger, however, never returned. So this Christian messenger never made it home. Why is that? In 1165, a letter sent to several European capitals from an Ethiopian or Abyssinian ruler fueled the legend. So they heard from an Ethiopian legend, this ruler, which fueled their legend. This letter reportedly became known as a letter from Prester John. This letter establishes a concrete connection between Prester John and Africa. A concrete connection between Prester John and Africa. So-called Africa. So-called Africa. Would it be because this Africa is also Hold up. Could it be because this so-called Africa, according to this reality simulation, you dig on, is also called Vendia, Central Vendia, India, India, Africa, Abyssinia, Vendia, Vedic, Vedas, Vendia, Indian, Vendian Highlands, Vendian Desert. And when we talk Persia, we're only talking Iranistan, Persia, Vendia, right? And this is before the separation, so whatever, Iranistan steeps, Iranistan, Persia, Vendia. Alright, let's just, how long has all this been separated? Can we at least dig on that? Or we're going to rely on science. Alright, so they got that letter, and that's when we got in this drop right here, which was discussing this letter, alright, that was given at that time. So, alright, we're going going to get a little bit more of this, and we're going to do a beautiful dispout into this write-up right here in Athens State University, The Quest for Prester John. You know, we're going to dig a little bit more in this book here, The Way, the Prophetic Message, Voice of the Path of the Edenic Kingdom. And I might save this for part 7, man, because we're going to get into the 3 Indias. Prester John was Raja out here, Rachola. We're going to get into these Cholas. Oh, man. They're going to still try to hijack him with this Christian. But then they're going to call it Nestorian Christian. And Nestor, as we looked up, is old man renowned for wise counsel. Then he's the son of these magi, these wise men that knew the signs. You see how you dig in on this? This Prince Jadaran, Bagratuni, Bagrationi, the sons, the descendants, Ephraim. Is he repping the North Tribe? Is this King David representing the Bagratids who considered themselves descendant of David, the second king of Israelites? All right, so we're only surfing the wave of who? Of what? Of Priest John. El Prester Juan Johannes, Emperor of De los Abyssinios. And again, love to my man, getting to the root. So much drop. Love to Darlene Ray. So much drop. Love to, man, everybody. You already know, man. I'm getting all kinds of Prester John drop, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, don't let me, I can't keep up. But I can. Coin issued in the name of Tamar. This is the coin to Tamar, his auntie, his aunt. Look at the language. All right. So, I'm going to get into some blinking, flickering sun on y'all right quick. But first, I want to get some more of this. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, see what else they're talking as we dig on the 2 Zions. So, they're going to find one of them here. They're going to say that the one in the Middle East is really here. You see this? Meru. M-E-R-U. Let's get it bigger. Meru. So I heard about a Meru here. We might have a Meru over here. 2 Zions. Alright. What's the old world? What's the new world? Have a lot of things been renamed and duplicated over here. What's really real? So let's get some more of this, and we'll be back with a dismount. Love to all y'all for surfing the wave. And as we get to this Priest John, whoever he may be, you know what I'm saying, we're going to find something that I know is pure gold, man. So hang on in there, and let's keep enjoying the process of learning and growing, man. Every day that we can is a blessing. Love to y'all. All right, we got a Jericho in Africa. What else we got? Surf the wave. Let's find that drop. Let's find them babies, man. Let's find some babies. Right. So some of us have seen this before, you know, these maps that show Jerusalem right there. Are we saying this? Or are we saying that? Let's keep going. And some show Jerusalem right here. Alright. So we have a Jerusalem in the Middle East. We have a Jerusalem in so-called Africa. We have our Jerusalem here. I mean, is it wherever we are? Do we keep forming our holy city and our congregation, our holy land, our we Zion, wherever we are, as we gather, as we collect ourselves? Is there another energetic vibration area wherever we are? Are we led to certain vibrations, certain energetic areas? Is it one place or is it many? Let's go. Menasseh. Hijack. It's saying that this is either from King David in the 12th century, or someone from his camp. But let's check it out. Let's surf the way. Our Majesty has been informed. So Our Majesty King David has been informed that you, Emmanuel, hold our excellency in love. So this Emmanuel is who this is written to. Hold our excellency in love, and that the report of our greatness has reached you from King David or Prester John. Let's go. Have not we read, and what was it, chapter 3 of Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, that Prester John had 72 kings that pays tribute to him. 72 kings that pays tribute to Prester John. Now in this other letter substantiating drop, this King David also has 72 kings that pays tribute to him. Let's go. 3 Indias, 3 Indies. All right, let's dig on it. So in these 72 provinces, only a few of them are Christian. So is this a Christian king? Each has its own king, but all are tributary to us. Let's go. Cannibals, Canaanites. So he called them out by name. These are the flesh eaters, Gog, Magog, and the rest of them. Let's go. So all these nations, this confederacy, Psalms 83, will burst from the four corners of the earth at the end of the world. Has that not happened? Have you been encompassed, Negro, by all the accursed nations against you? They have formed a confederacy against you from the four corners of the earth. Have they enslaved you, Negro, Nagas? Is this the end of the world? Hijack. Antichrist can mean anything. Anything against their hijack. Anything against their Christos, Serapis. Anything against the anointed of the Greeks. This is a Greek word, means anointed of who? The Greeks. Antichrist means anyone against the hijack of the Greeks. Get it? Let's go. So Prester John's living in paradise, man. Paradise, man. The Garden of Eden. Now you know where they're gonna say it is. But where is it? Everything. Now pay attention. Pay attention here. Tribes of Israel. Beyond the Stone River are the 10 tribes of Israel, which though those subject to their own kings are for all that tributary. Wait a minute, don't go so fast. Beyond the Stone River. Now we got into that Sambanyan River, the river that flows except for the Sabbath. It stops on the Sabbath. It has no water, but it does have fish. It's a legendary river. Have you ever heard of it? It's made of stone and sand. Beyond the Stone River are the tribes, the 10 tribes of Israel, which those subject to their own kings are for all that tributary to our majesty. So who's Prester John? Are we saying that beyond the Stone River are the 10 tribes? So if this is King David, is he just simply saying, I represent the southern tribes, but beyond the Stone River are the other tribes, and though they have their own king, they still gotta get down with us. they still got to get down with Judah. Although those other 10 tribes are beyond the Samoan River, the Sabbath River, the Stone River, they still got to pay tributary to Judah. They got their own king, but they still rock with us. They have to. Is this what King David is talking about? Now you see how they marched on your shores, Negro, with this hijack and brought it to you, Negro? And you like, what the what? Hijack City. So yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying. If Prester John was indeed, we're going to get into this chapter, Black Devils. We're going to get into these Black Devils, man. We're going to get into these Caribs, these flesh eaters. You see how all this stuff comes together? You see how we vibing? Wait, I want to... Columbus's Golden World. All right, I'll back it up. So we know we had a Hebrew interpreter. He's the mouthpiece for his encounter, presumably on the basis of his Hebrew. Perhaps Columbus and his supporters had decided that the great Khan or great sovereign, remember, reported on by Marco Polo and others might be the Israelite king who dwelt across the river. Not the old ocean and sea, but right across the river from Prester John. So why would Columbus coming to America bring a Hebrew interpreter to find this Israelite king or great sovereign, great prince who dwelt across the river right by Prester John, where Columbus is coming to America to do what? This is the book, beginning of the book of collections or authorities, sayings, opinions, and prophecies concerning the need to recover the holy city and Mount Zion. And convert the islands of the Indies and all peoples for Ferdinand and such 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 and such. And where we at? We didn't even get into these lands of Prester John, man. We're gonna get back in that. Man, so much trouble. So why would Columbus need to bring a Hebrew interpreter to find the great Khan, prince, sovereign, lord, reported on by Marco Polo and others, and think that this great lord might be the Israelite king right by Prester John across the river? If he's in Africa or Ethiopia or Abyssinia, or are we just referring to the same Abyssinia, the same Ethiopia, the same Kush right here on the West Coast with California, Pickland? Are we only talking about Egypt? Are we only talking about Kush, Kush, and the Nile, and the capital city of Meru, right on top of South America, over the Amazon? The Black Kingdoms is Prester John over here, and the Black Kingdoms, Kush, Black Kingdoms, Egypt, Kim, Luxor, Black Kingdoms, Shem. And is this what we're just rocking with? The Indias, the Vindias, the Indias, the Vindias. The Vindias. So where are we really? Where are we rocking? Where's Prester John? Who's Prester John? Is he the Israelite king? Is all we're asking. We'll be right back, man. I thought we would have more time for this, but this will be in part 7. I'll come right back with it for y'all. The conquest, the quest for Prester John. This is in Athens State University, man. Drop Nation is amazing. We'll get more out of that. We'll get more out of this. Prester John was Raja Hirachola II. How this relates to this India situation, these Hindu riders, these 2 Ethiopian nations, and these 2 Zions. Yeah, man, we'll get right back into Atam Bagrutuni, Prince of Osi and Ephraim. Rakatuni, we're talking about Israelites. We're only talking Prester John. We're only talking the land of Prester John. And oh boy, is there a rich history when we talk about the land of Prester John. And we got so much more, man. This is just straight drop, letting you know that these Colombians, they thought that it was the climax of the millennium. I mean, they thought it was the climax of their millennium. The Puritans' slow but steady march toward the millennium, in turn, authorized their claim to moral superiority over Israel and to the New World's superiority over the biblical Canaan. The biblical Canaan. It was only called Canaan because Canaanites wouldn't leave. It was only called Atlantis because Canaanites wouldn't leave. They declared the New World another promised land. The New World another promised land. Counterpart of Canaan of old, but greater than the Canaan of old. Maybe it was the Canaan, greater than their Canaan. It was the real Canaan, another promised land. Again, we're only talking about Prester John. We're only talking about the Magi, the skilled magicians. We're only talking about the millennium, Columbus. We're only talking about the quest. All right. So love to everybody, man. I guess we'll leave out of here, man, with some flickering. Y'all want to flicker? We don't worship the sun, but the sun is a transmitter, a transponder. Dig on it. I love y'all, man. Flickering sun, flickering sun, flickering sun. Stay up, suit up, choose up.
Look at you blinking. The thing blinks all the time.
There's 22-year-long solar cycles of deadness and activity and deadness and activity. They started in the early Renaissance. It peaked out around World War II. And now that we're in cycle 24, the sun's going dead. And it's not creating an ionosphere.